Today's video is brought to you by the National Security Agency, the one federal agency in the United States that constantly spies on its fellow citizens for the sake of national security. Now, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, say what you will about the NSA, say what you want, say whatever it is, but if I was an American, I would be wholly against an organization that was constantly looking through the private lives of its citizens for the sake of national security. Man, isn't that a fucking guys and a half. Now, believe it or not, the NSA decided to disclose a security vulnerability that could, in fact, make the title of this video, Virus Investigations, Windows 10. Woohoo! Now, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of rants about the NSA, but I'm gonna save that for later. Now, let me just tell you what's going on. The NSA's Twitter page, the intern put this one out. NSA has discovered a critical vulnerability, CVE 2020-0601, that's just the code they use, affecting Microsoft Windows cryptographic functionality. The certificate validation vulnerability allows an attacker to undermine how Windows verifies cryptographic trust and can enable remote code execution. This affects Windows 10 and Windows Server 2016 to 2019, as well as applications that rely on Windows for trust functionality. Exploitation of the vulnerability allows attackers to defeat trusted network connections and deliver executable code while appearing as legitimately trusted entities. So let me just put this in perspective real quick. Basically, the certificates that we use on the internet to verify if a server is legitimate or not legitimate have actually been compromised. And this allows hackers to actually use this exploit to basically sign software as malicious software as totally legitimate software. So if Windows 10 decides to wonder, hey, is this okay or not? It's given a certificate that basically is spoofed to resemble an actual legitimate certificate, and Windows 10 says, you know what? I can't tell the fucking difference. I guess I can run malware or datastealer.exe and call it a day. So you know what? I think the most fair analogy I can kind of give over here, that's kind of a crappy analogy, but I think it's the closest one that I can give to the audience without getting too technical into things. So effectively, if you look at US currency, right, the US dollar bill, the $1 bill in this case, or any dollar bill, will actually have some tells to signify that it's not, counterfeit currency. The way that it's felt, the way that you can look through it in light and see different things, and even chemically, it's actually a hard bill to replicate. But you can replicate this bill, if you put enough time and money and effort to it. But one thing that can't be replicated is an active serial number that's on the bill. See, every US dollar bill has a different serial number to it. I can list you how many bills right here, and it's different currency no matter what, different serial numbers. So imagine for a second, if this serial number, let's assume that this was an application, right? Let's assume this is a real application, this is a fake one. The fact that the serial number on this one is real, and the fact that this one, if somebody found a way to make this serial number legitimate, if I handed this bill over, right, if I ran these two programs, they would look exactly the same. Nobody would be able to tell the difference. Trust would be an issue. One is legitimate, one isn't, but as far as Windows is considered, all these are fine, okay? That's roughly the analogy I can give you. It's not the best, it's not the super most in-depth analogy, but I hope it makes some sense into what's going on. Basically, government agencies, military agencies that rely on Windows 10, this trust mechanism, are actually under a huge shitstorm if this was to be abused. But there is a weird side to that as well. One of the things that I found on this exploit was, is it publicly available? No. All right. Privately available? Yes. The NSA or any other large-scale organization, if they were to abuse this, has a private version of this exploit. Add them. Has it ever been exploited in the wild? I don't know. A lot of people I see are actually throwing the I don't know in the wild exploitation, which, if this is a heavily critical issue that the NSA has brought up, I have not seen it used in any case scenario out in the wild. See, if you don't really know, the NSA is actually going for the sort of transparent look where they're like, oh, we're not really spying on you, but we are. And they're trying to make it look like that they're out there to focus on the best interests of the public. Now, before we continue, let me have a fucking rant about the National Security Agency, okay? Before everything goes dark and I get sent to like this weird black box of an island. The NSA is an organization that once had the PRISM program and protocol running on their networks, running inside their system. This is a PRISM organization. What does that mean? Well, what that means is these guys had back doors, back channels into most major American operating systems and technological pieces of tech out there. Meaning that if you had an iPhone, if you had an Android device, if you had whatever running American tech on it, these guys had some form of a backdoor or some way to exploit your device. And this system was used to gather mass surveillance on United States citizens and maybe people abroad. The NSA may actually be guilty of committing espionage in multiple other countries. In fact, I would actually wager that if somebody looked that into the PRISM program, which wouldn't come to light if one of their contractors didn't actually leak that information. Yes, Edward Snowden is in fact an American hero for letting their people know that they're being spied on by a tyrannical fucking government. All right, okay, relax. You know what? The NSA actually did their job just fine. You know, the National Security Agency stepped in to assist most people using Windows 10 of a national security issue that would have affected American citizens. Whew! God bless them. Now, you know what? I could sit here and tell you the ulterior motives that the NSA has, and honestly, I'm actually going to stick to my fucking guns, okay? Let me tell you. The most likely what happened was there was some other agency, probably the Russians, probably the Chinese, I'm not sure, their agencies figured out this exploit too, and the NSA probably said, you know what, we can't abuse it anymore on our own, so let's just make it public and look like we're the fucking good guys. And you know what, at that point, maybe that's a cool conspiracy theory, but at the end of the day, what's good is that a security issue has been patched. But like I said earlier, this is the same agency that had a lot, and I mean a lot of information, a lot of exploits to basically abuse. And if it wasn't leaked, they probably still have those running. I mean, Eternal Blue wasn't a fucking joke. Let me put that one out there. Now, I could just end the video off and say, hey guys and gals, update the Windows 10 security patch issue number 55555433332. But you know what? You probably already updated to it, okay? Probably in the background. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've been uploading some Linux content lately. You know, I showed you guys me ripping on Macintoshes while running a Mac under Linux flawlessly. I've shown you me running Windows 10 as a gaming rig on an actual VM. And, you know, I've been a Linux guy, okay? For a while I've been using Windows 10, and recently I've actually switched off, made my entire, Linux build, ran my VMs under it, and I couldn't be happier from it. It's a very unconventional build, but the reason I'm using it is, you have to ask yourself the question, do you trust a multiple publicly traded billion-dollar megacorp out there with your computer and all your data? While Microsoft's Windows 10 doesn't actively really spy on you, or I believe there's no exact concrete proof, the thing that always freaks me out about Windows 10 is diagnostics data. While you can view diagnostics data and some of their telemetry, that's really only what Windows 10 is telling you about. God knows what they actually have running in the background that I don't know. There's a lot of weird things about Windows 10 that I just don't trust. And it goes for Apple, it goes for any major tech company out there. I'm not pushing free and open source for no reason. I use Linux primarily because while it is another operating system, it's not the best. You know, there's a lot of use case scenarios where it's a bitch to work with. The best part about Linux is that it's actively moderated by a bunch of well-talented individuals, security researchers, people that are looking through the code every single day of every hour. You know, every hour of every single day. I'm sort of tripping up everywhere. But that being said, because that happens, it is probably one of the most secure operating systems you can use, and one that you can kind of ensure isn't spying on you to begin with. Now, in recent years, Linux has gotten a lot easier for your day-to-day tasks, but even for things like video gaming, Linux is actually kind of excelling at to begin with. But that's just one more case scenario becoming a stronger fix on Linux. Linux is still not perfect, but that VM build I showed you pretty much makes for the perfect PC in my opinion. You know, if you want the magic of Windows 10, consider going out of your way to build a PCI pass-through device or go to Linux entirely just so you can virtualize your Windows installation when you really need it, because at the end of the day, I will only run Microsoft OS, I will only run Apple operating system for my specific case use needs. I don't need these companies to have constant access to my files, my important, things, family, contact information, all that kind of stuff, because honestly, I don't trust these companies worth a shit to do this. I certainly don't trust the National Security Agency, and I certainly don't trust Microsoft Windows after seeing multiple exploits, not just this, but multiple exploits that they've suffered through in the past regarding Windows 10. I certainly don't trust Apple, and regardless of that, it makes me sound paranoid, but at the end of the day, given the fact that data is the biggest tool that we have and the biggest asset by a large margin in today's world, I would wager and say that you should start taking care of it a little bit better. There's a lot of YouTube channels getting hijacked, there's a lot of accounts being compromised, and there's a lot of people's data that's being stolen. The whole point of virus investigations is to sort of bring awareness to protecting yourself online, and especially protecting the data that is honestly really key and near dear to a lot of you. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll probably make a video later about my whole Linux build and how I secure myself from it. But, you know, until then, I just want you to sort of process in your head the importance of probably switching to something that won't exactly necessarily spy on you to the extent that most of these big corporations already do to an extent. The harvesting of user data and selling it to third parties is very fucked up. And I hope people start waking up to it more and more as the years go by. Maybe 2020 is that year of the Linux desktop, but what I do know is just starting this year off, Windows 10 ain't looking quite Gucci, as the kids these days say. That being said, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am